So those of you waiting, my name is Justin Fields. I'm one of the school counselors at Hebron High School, and we are beginning, we're going to begin our presentation right at 6. So just hang tight for a few more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, good evening. My name is Justin Fields, and I am the lead counselor at Hebron High School, and we are glad that you are here. Um, Ideally, if you are attending this meeting, then you are a student or the parent of a current 10th and 11th grader. I am happy to be joined by some of my teammates from the counseling office. They are going to be managing, moderating our chat for this evening. So we have Mrs. Stacy Lovett, Mrs. Kim Klingon, Mrs. Latasha Rayford, and Mrs. Marlene Hood. So if you have questions as we go along, it's really important that to us, that we answer as many questions as we get. So if something is unclear or you have a clarifying question, please go ahead and type that in the chat, and they will respond to those. They may even post a link to a document or a website to help answer your questions. And then if they find that something needs to be reiterated or clarified for everybody, they'll also just please chime in and let me know, moderators, and I can do that for you. We are going to, this is a big presentation in that there's a lot of details, and then there's a lot of different, your students that are a lot of different points in their high school career. So we're going to provide, I think, the information in a fairly organized way so that you can leave this presentation hopefully with a good structure and a really good sense of what a rough draft could look like for course selection. All right, so our agenda for this evening is we are going to go over the process that we're going to take at Hebron High School. We're also going to highlights some just general important details about course selections so that you and your student can remember these things to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. We're also going to highlight the variety of different classes that we offer at Hebron High School and in LISD. That can be one of the most confusing parts of some of our course selection, especially for our rising 11th and 12th graders. You are going to see that your choices actually explode at this age range. And for some people, that's really exciting. For some people, that can just feel overwhelming. So hopefully we can help to streamline those things for you. Then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to cover core course options for juniors and seniors for next year. So we're going to go through English and math and science and social studies and hopefully help you to focus on what your choices are so that you feel like you're going through things in an organized manner. And then we're going to help you to brainstorm and give you some good tips on how to fill in the rest of the schedule and the course requests. We have provided in the chat already, you will see a link to the course selection information page that this counseling department hosts. We believe that this is a really thorough and one-stop shop for everything that we're going to refer to tonight. We're going to refer to the process. We're going to refer to course cards. We're going to refer to recordings of presentations and advisory videos. Everything is there. So if you are missing something or want to look at something, even get a preview, that's a really good place for it. So it's already been shared in the chat. I do also want to highlight a couple of other of things going on. So over the past week and a half or so, we have done a few videos and advisory for your students just to help them get thinking about the process. Those are posted on the course selection information page. One was just a general overview of what we're going to do. So in short, on Monday of next week in advisory, we are going to have our final advisory lesson with them where we're going to help them to rough draft their course selection. And then on Tuesday, January 24th, that's when your students are going to be asked to log into their their Skyward account and enter their course selections for next year. They're going to do that through the student account. Parents can see their request, but they cannot add to them through your side. But your student will actually have through the rest of next week. So at the end of the school day on Friday, the 27th at 4:30, that's when Skyward will close for course selection. Now, I do want to clarify, we want your students to do the very best they can with their initial entries, but the school counselors are going to be meeting with every student in the current 9th, 10th, and 11th grade over the course of February all the way up to spring break, having individual meetings with each student to answer questions and even make adjustments. So while we do want your students to be prepared and complete a full request of classes, there is going to be an opportunity for them to get things clarified. This week, we have a few more presentations to have. So tomorrow, actually at noon through WebEx, very similar to this, we're going to have a presentation that really focuses on our advanced academic and CTE options. So this will cover the differences between things like honors, AP, and dual credit and a bit more in depth. And then also look at our CTE classes, which can also, all of those options can help prepare students for their goals for after high school, whether that's getting certifications or work experience or getting prepared for college courses that come afterwards. Once again, Skyward is going to be the primary vehicle where all of the entry happens. Your students are the only ones that are going to be able to enter their course requests, but you can certainly sit with them and look over things together. And we're going to provide directions and a link for them. So if they forget and need a tutorial about how to log back in and enter classes, that will be available on our course selection information page. Let's see, we covered a lot of details on this page. The only other thing I do want to highlight is that next week on January 26th, the tech centers, there's Tech Center, Tech East and Tech West. Tech East is right over by Killian Middle School. It's the building behind it. And then Tech West is over on Flower Mound Road, really close to Louisville Harmon and also the Aquatic Center as well. They're going to be, both of those locations will be hosting community nights. And if your student is interested in a tech program, the facilities are incredible and it really doesn't sink in until you get over there. So if you want to take a tour, there's information there and advertisements and flyers are going to be posted about those things. Like I said, we're going to have individual meetings with all students primarily in the month of February. We're going to be doing that during second period and advisory. So I know a lot of people have questions at this time of year. I just want to let you know that your student will have time. So even if we can't meet with your student, tomorrow or next week, they will have time with us. And as long as we get everything correct before spring break, we're going to be in really good shape. So we do ask for your patience because this process is long, but also individual and very detail oriented. And it's important to us that we have time with your students. We're also going to have one final process called course verification, which will be in May, which would basically be one last chance for your student to check over their course request to verify everything looks correct. We're going to begin with just a few general course selection notes. So for those that just need a refresher, your student is working their way towards 26 total credits for graduation. Those credits are earned by having a grade of a 70% or higher and also having 90% attendance or better in their classes, and credit is awarded for every 9 weeks at Hebron High School. Within those 26 credits, we do want your student to have a breakdown of the mix that you see for English, math, science, and social studies credits. Some of those things are very specific, particularly for junior and senior year. So we'll cover those things shortly. Also, in a way, we also just want students to really focus on taking one of those core subject classes at least once a year. Students need at least 2 credits of the same world language, 1 credit of fine art, 1 credit of physical education, and then whatever is left are electives. So one of the questions we get often is about what we would call overflow. So for example, if your student is in band and they do band every year of high school, they have the opportunity to earn 8 credits of fine art. The first credit would count for their fine art requirement, and then any of the other art credits they earn in any way count as elective credits. The same thing would apply for world language. So if they earn 2 credits of Spanish and then they take Spanish 3 or 4 or change languages, all those extra credits would go to electives. So there's a lot of ways to get to that 26 credit, but this gives you some structure for that. The reason we emphasize this graduation plan is because when students are earning these types of credits in this mix, they are generally meeting the admissions requirements for most 4-year universities. So it gives students the most choice for after high school, and that's really where we want them to be, with as much choice and as much option as they can. When we talk specifically, this gives you a little bit more detail. We want students to take English each year. We want students to take a math class each year. That math class, we would like to include Algebra 2, hopefully at some point, because Algebra 2 is really looked at as a kind of a benchmark math level to be prepared for college. Most of our students will exceed that. Science, we want students to take 1 each year, and we really would like for them to take at least chemistry or physics as a part of that mix, and that will apply specifically to juniors and seniors if they haven't done that already. And then social studies, we're going to run into some of our first specific classes this year in social studies, and that would be all 11th graders. They have to take US history because there also is a STAR test with that. For many of them, it will be their last STAR test. And then 12th graders will have to take government and economics as part of the state requirements for graduation. For those that are interested in GPA weighting, and if that's important to you and your student, this will show you why course selection can be important in that regard to some students. Particularly, you will notice that AP and dual credit classes have the highest GPA weight of 1.2. Honors classes do have a nice weight to them, but they're a little bit less. And then there's general or on-level courses after that. So for those students that it's important for, then you can refer to this system. Just to clarify, we somehow get this rumor started every year. AP classes and dual credit classes have the exact same weight. There's no difference in that. And that seems to stir up every year. So I want to make sure we're clear on that right now. Students that are identified as gifted and talented, we do want to mention that the primary delivery of gifted and talented instruction in the high school level is through honors and AP classes and also dual credit. Students that do request designated GT sections, that does exist in our course cards. They can do that. They don't have to do that for every section or every class that they pick. I do want to make a note, though, that students that do want to take GT designated classes in everything they take, that can become a bit restricting. So our goal as counselors is to try and get students in as many of their primary requests as possible. And sometimes that means that we switch from a GT designated section to just a regular honors or AP class. To be clear, though, honors and AP courses, whether they are GT or not, they are the exact same curriculum. The only difference is that in a GT specific class, all of the students are identified as GT. In a quote unquote regular AP class, there will be a mixture of GT and non-GT students in that. The course formats. So this is something we really want to clarify. I think for some people, if this is your first student in high school entering junior and senior year, when we talk about all of the different formats that we offer in LISD and at Hebron High School, it can feel a little bit like going to the ice cream parlor and seeing a ton of different choices out there. So we want to clarify what those are, and then we will go, as we go through each subject, we'll give you examples of each of those. So our course flavors, so to speak, we have on level or regular, if you want, that's kind of interchangeable. We have honors classes. Honors classes are what pre-AP classes used to be. We've gone away from that pre-AP label within the last year or so. So if you had an older student several years ago that took pre-AP, those are now honors. They're the exact same class, just a different title. We then have advanced placement, or AP. We have dual credit. And then we also have tech center classes. This is primarily in our electives. We also have VLA, which we'll clarify in just a moment. That's our virtual campus in LISD. And then we also have summer courses as well. When we talk about on-level versus honors classes, really, I would think about honors classes as essentially a training ground, or practicing and preparing for college-level courses in the high school environment. So honors classes would really be where students are being taught and trained, not only the academic content, so the reading, the writing, the math skills, but also the academic skills as well, the critical thinking, the time management, the participation in discussion skills that are needed to do well in AP and dual credit classes. There is no opportunity for college credit in these classes. However, if your student is interested in taking AP or dual credit classes in the future, then we would encourage them to definitely take honors classes at some point particularly during 9th and 10th grade. You're going to see as your student goes through 11th and 12th grade that the honors course choices really start to fade away, and those become replaced by AP and dual credit classes begin to take over. Advanced placement is, or AP, is run by the College Board. The College Board is the same program that also runs the PSAT and SAT. Advanced placement classes are college-level courses taught in the high school environment, and they're taught by a high school teacher. It's a national curriculum, so theoretically, if we're taking an AP English 3 class at Hebron High School and moved to Ohio, your student entered that same class, they would be taking very similar content. And these classes are preparing students not only to learn the content, but also preparing them over the span of this course to take an AP exam. And these exams are offered nationwide in the month of May. And these exams are where students have the opportunity to earn college credit. We're going to come back to that in just a moment after we talk about our next subject, which is dual credit. Dual credit is very similar to AP in that it is a college level course taught in the high school environment. However, dual credit classes are going to be taught by a college professor. In the example of Hebron High School in Louisville ISD, our partner here is Collin College. So we have professors from Collin come to our campus and teach classes on our campus to our students who are registered for those classes. Another big distinguishing factor with dual credit is that students have to qualify to get into those, and they have to do that by, one, applying and becoming a Collin College student, and then also demonstrating that they are college ready through a test like the SAT, the ACT, or the PSAT, or also the TSI. Part of our job is managing and identifying students that are qualifying for that show interest in those programs. And we're going to go through our registration process for students interested in dual credit after course selection. The dual in dual credit comes from the fact that students who take these classes actually can earn 2 kinds of credit. First, so if a student takes dual credit government and economics, for example, at Hebron, they will earn high school credit from Hebron High School, and they will also earn college credit for that same course through Collin College. And so they will essentially have 2 transcripts that they're starting. For those of you that have your first student preparing for college, really what I want to emphasize with AP and dual credit is the idea of mastery. So mastery, in other words, would be your student demonstrating that they have met the learning objectives of a class. They've learned what this class is about. In an AP class, a student would demonstrate mastery of the content, not through their course grade, but through their AP exam score. So students who take AP exams earn a score of a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And then what you do is that score could be worth college credit at the school that your student ultimately goes to. Generally speaking, students who score a 3, a 4, or a 5 on an exam have demonstrated mastery, and then the destination where they actually attend college, that school will award them various amounts of credit or give them credit for specific classes at their campus. Similarly, with dual credit, a student demonstrates mastery in this example through their course grade. And so when a student eventually goes on to college after high school graduation, they would send their call-in transcript in this example to that school, and the school would evaluate that transcript and apply that credit towards their degree. If you think about this through a consumer standpoint, when your student goes to college, you are not going to want your student to pay for and spend the time taking a class for which they have already mastered the content. So for example, if your student has already mastered the content of an introductory biology class and they've demonstrated that through AP biology, you don't want them, and they don't want to have to sit through a class where they already know everything that's being taught. That's really what students are aiming for. One of the things, the benefits that they're doing through these class. In addition, they are also obviously getting better prepared for the rigor of college classes through these courses as well. Moving along to just a couple of further details about dual credit is that typically compared to why students take this class here, compared to a traditional college class where your student is a college student at their four-year college, the class sizes here are oftentimes much smaller than what they might experience in an introductory level course. They also get the experience of being a true college student with Collin College and having access to those resources and some of the other independence that comes with that. So there would be the primary communicator with their professor and using a different system through the Collin system, which could be good practice for them. There is also quite a bit of cost savings, and we will talk about this in a bit more in depth tomorrow during our advanced academic presentation. But here on this screen, you can see some of the examples of what our classes here, dual credit classes, come in 3 credit chunks. And you can see what you would pay for a 3 credit course at UTD, UNT, and then you'll see under $200 is what students will be paying for Collin College when they take a dual credit class here at Hebron. Dual credit classes also transfer to all 4-year public schools in the state of Texas, also many of the private schools, and then also beyond our Texas borders as well. AP classes and credit is accepted nationwide as well. So there really is a lot of opportunity for application of these credits beyond high school. Biggest thing we want for students to consider with AP and dual credit classes is about the amount of time and the amount of work that it goes into these courses, and we want our students to maintain as much balance as we can. We know our students have outside work obligations. They might be in extracurriculars here at Hebron. They might have family responsibilities. We also want them to be able to do things like sleep and also spend time with their family and be a teenager. So all of that comes into play. Really what we want to emphasize is that hopefully a student doesn't feel like they have to take AP in every class. Especially for a subject matter for which a student might not be really interested in and would rather spend their time and energy doing other things and not feeling overwhelmed in that way. You can refer to this table. We've covered a lot of that criteria already. The thing that we want to really highlight after this is the dual credit options. So dual credit is only available for our juniors and seniors here at Hebron, and we're going to review this again further in the presentation, but just so that you can see, for juniors, the most popular dual credit course for them is what we refer to as dual credit humanities. Dual credit humanities is a year-long experience where students would take, for example, a sequence of classes in first period, for example, all year from August until May. And in that experience, they would actually take 4 total classes through Collin College, equaling 12 college credits or 2 credits here at Hebron. That dual credit humanities experience is made up of English 3, and also US History. So when they complete that program, they earn 1 English 3 credit and 1 US History credit. They also, on the Collins side of things, earn 6 credits of English and 6 credits of history. For our seniors, what you're going to see on the screen right now are the most popular choices for our seniors. There is an English 4 option. Students who take the English 4, which is really a combination of 2 classes, an American Literature English class, which you see at the top, and then also an introductory speech class. Those 2 classes together create the same credit as English 4. Students must have taken dual credit humanities as juniors in order to participate in the dual credit English 4 class. At the bottom of the screen, you will see another popular choice for dual credit for seniors, which is the government and economics pair. Again, economics and government have to be taken together as a pair, and they're taken over the course of 18 weeks or 1 semester here. And in this example, like they would take government and economics every other day. When they complete that course program over that 18 weeks, they have the half credit of government that they need for graduation from high school and the half credit of economics that they need for graduation from high school as well. We do have 2 other electives that are available for both juniors and seniors. At the top of the screen, it can be summarized simply as our 1 math dual credit option. It is what we refer to as dual credit statistics. It's an introduction to elementary statistics class. Students will take this Math 1342 class, and then they also pair that with an independent study class here at Hebron. So every other day they would take elementary stats with Colin, and then they would take an independent study class here at Hebron. The independent study class is really almost like a tutorial or a supplemental class to help students with their Colin course. And when they get done with that, they have earned 1 full high school credit, and they've earned 3 credits of math at Colin. Finally, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see another elective, which is psychology and sociology. Again, these are 2 Colin classes that must be taken together. And they are taken again over an 18-week chunk where students are taking psychology and sociology every other day. And they, at the end of this, have 1 full credit of social studies elective here at Hebron. They also have 3 credits of psychology and 3 credits of sociology through Collin College. Again, we'll revisit these, but for those of you that just want to see a summary, this is what we do offer at Hebron. For people that are interested in VLA, this is a really popular selection for students across LISD. What they would want us to emphasize is that they have been doing online learning much longer than many people are used to it. They do not want you to think that your experience in online learning or during our COVID protocols captures really what VLA is like as a student. They would quite honestly tell you that they've been doing it longer and better than maybe what you are used to through our COVID protocols of the last couple of years. VLA, Virtual Learning Academy, is a school in LISD. It is also, the classes there are taught by LISD teachers. There are real human beings that work for LISD behind these courses that are teaching. When we put these classes in your student's schedule, they can be scheduled inside or outside of the school day. So if a student has a VLA class in their schedule, they would be during either first, third, or fourth period. And if they are scheduled during the school day, there is no charge for these classes. So as an example, if your student has a VLA class in their schedule during first period, they would not be expected to be on campus. Quite honestly, we would expect them to be away from campus during that time. These classes are not live, they are asynchronous. So for example, if your student has a first period VLA class, they may wake up at 7 a.m. and do work on their VLA class or exercise. They may also sleep, and they would wake up maybe at 9 o'clock, and they need to be prepared to be in their seat at Hebron in this example at the beginning of their second period class. Similar things for third and fourth period, but it's important to know that if your student is taking a VLA class, they should be prepared to not be at Hebron during their scheduled period. And so transportation can be important for that. There is no school transportation for students to arrive late. So these would be people who might be driving themselves or having someone that could take or pick them up from school when this fits into their schedule. VLA classes can also be scheduled outside of the school day, so like a fifth class, for example. However, there is a payment for these classes, and I believe it's about $175 per half credit course. There is a really growing selection of classes through VLA, and so if you go to the course selection homepage, there is a link to the VLA course card there that you can review, and that is seems to be growing every semester almost. They really expanded their offerings there. Obviously, since these are online and they are a bit of, they're self-paced in that a student can do them at any time of day, but they're also, students are expected to keep up with the pace of the class. So it's not something that a student could wait till the last week of a 9 weeks to do all the work. Students do have to keep up with things along the way. So a student who is a good candidate for VLA would be someone that could be responsible enough, mature enough to be able to initiate their own work and also conversations with their online teachers as well. All right, so we are now at the part where we're going to go through our core course options for juniors and seniors. What you're going to see now is that we're going to go through each course subject by grade and give you different choices. So if you are one to make a rough draft of course selection, you may start making notes of this right now. Again, your goal as you draft course selections with your student is to have a list of 8 periods of classes. And so what we generally encourage people to do is, if you have 8 periods to think of, the first 4 should be devoted to your core classes, English, Math, Science, and Social Studies, and then that gets you halfway done. And then we can help you break it down after that. So beginning with, and we'll go alternating back from 11th grade to 12th grade to help make sure we keep everybody engaged. So 11th graders are going to take English 3, and you'll see the different options here on the screen. We've got an on-level class, an AP class. Those are both 18 weeks. And then we also offer a humanities format. So when we say humanities, we have an AP or a dual credit version of that. And so for a student who is in AP Humanities, that is a package deal where they're taking AP English 3 and AP US History together. Oftentimes they're going to be with the same cohort of students that whole time. And in this example, they would take AP English, AP US History on alternating days every other day for the course of the entire school year. So your student, for example, may have AP Humanities in 3rd period from August through May. Dual credit humanities works very similar in that they would have dual credit English and US History every other day. And again, that would go for the whole school year. It's a package deal and everything has to be taken together. Students can also take AP or regular AP English 3 or regular English 3 through VLA inside or outside of the school day. Just to clarify on AP English options for our 11th and 12th graders, there is going to be quite a bit of focus on critical reading skills. It's a big emphasis also on learning the mechanics of grammar, vocabulary, and formal writing. So there's going to be quite a bit of reading and writing. The students who are in AP English, again, we are preparing and training students for the academic skills that they'll need as college students. So the students should be prepared. For example, if there's a 25-page reading assignment one night, students will not only be expected to complete that reading, but also be prepared to build off of that reading in class the next day and be able to comprehend what they've read and be ready to jump off from that point. Let's see, just to clarify, for those of you that are wanting to see another visual example of dual credit humanities, which is the 11th grade dual credit option, again, it's a package deal where students are going to take both English 1301 and 1302 at Collin, and that is the equivalent of English 3 at Hebron. When they do that over the course of the year, they earn 6 college credits from Collin, 1 high school English credit from Hebron, and then you'll see for the history, you take History 1301 and 1302, which are college classes at Collin. Those 2 classes together equal US History at Hebron, and those classes are worth 6 college credits through Collin and 1 high school social studies credit from Hebron. For our seniors, your English option is as follows. Again, on level or AP English 4. We also have dual credit English 4, which again is an 18-week experience. And in this, again, it's a package deal where you have American literature and introduction to speech every other day for 18 weeks. There is also VLA options for on level and AP. There are technically also what are called advanced English options or advanced education options, where a student technically could take something like Yearbook 3 or Newspaper 3, and that would count as a fourth English credit. They obviously have to have gone through all the prerequisites, so students that would have been involved in newspaper all throughout high school, for example. I will say that this option is a much more rare option taken up by students. And really the biggest thing that we would want to emphasize with people considering this is to look forward and see, yes, this class might satisfy high school graduation requirements, but does it meet college admissions requirements for the school that you are interested in? So it can be about making sure that you're keeping your options open as much as possible. Let's see. Again, dual credit English 4, you have to have done dual credit humanities. And again, both classes must be passed in order to get the full credit of English 4 for graduation. Switching gears to social studies now, for 11th graders, all 11th grade students have to take some form of U.S. history. U.S. history specifically is a graduation requirement, and there is also a STAR test that students must pass during their junior year as well. This class can be taken in an on-level format, AP. We've also talked about the AP Humanities and dual credit humanities as well. Again, there are also VLA options as well. So you will need to pick one of those formats for U.S. history. And this is, again, just these slides are going to be available for you to review, but we've already covered all the content in this as well. One thing we want to emphasize about AP U.S. history is that it really is designed to almost be like a freshman level college course. And one of the biggest reflections that our AP history teachers say about this course is that it can sometimes surprise students in the amount of writing that is also a part of this history class. So yes, it is learning about U.S. history, but it's also about being able to investigate, critical think about events, and also express those in a writing format. This is also a skill that's preparing them for the AP exam as well. So successful participants in these AP classes, in particular AP US History, these are going to be self-motivated. They are going to enjoy the process or the experience of learning just as much as they are about the accomplishment. So students are, when I think back to my own high school experiences, AP classes were ones that I was really pushed, but I became a better student through that as well, in addition to learning the content. And that I cannot tell you how much of a benefit that was for me in my college days. For our 12th grade students, they have to take government and economics. Every student needs a half credit of government and a half credit of economics to meet the state requirements for graduation. With government and economics, students have an on-level or an AP option. Keep in mind that these classes are individually, they are 9 weeks long. So a student would take 9 weeks of government and 9 weeks of economics. There is a dual credit option, which is a government and economics taken together as a package. And that would again be government and economics every other day. And then again, there's also VLA as well inside and outside of the school day. For students that do take VLA classes, these classes are also of particular popularity for some students that take them during the summer as well, the summer leading up to their senior year. This is again just emphasizing and clarifying the dual credit government and economics class. Again, it's 2 classes. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the government class at Collin and also the economics class. Each of those are worth 3 college credits. On the right-hand side, you'll see that what you're earning on the high school side. All right. So we are going to go now into math and science, and I will brace you that this is where really the choices explode for students, and it's all going to be dependent upon where they are in their math curriculum. Everybody's going to be at a different point in this, but we do want to emphasize that students do take a math class every year of high school. Yes, it's one thing to complete your high school requirements, and some students may have met those high school requirements for math by the end of their junior year. But for many of those students who are college bound and preparing for college, we don't want them to get out of math shape, for example, and we want them to consider doing that. On a similar note, some students really take a lot of math classes and they think it is a point of pride to finish or exhaust all of our math options early in high school. So for example, they may have taken BC calculus by their junior year because they've taken so many so fast. That's really something that we would encourage students to reconsider, and making sure that if you're going to be here for 4 years, you can spread out that content so that you're able to take things as you go through and don't leave yourself with a big math gap leading up to college. Algebra 2 is going to be one of our most popular options, particularly for juniors. When you're considering regular versus honors Algebra 2, we would really look back for students to look at their Algebra 1 grade. So sometimes we do get students that may have not done well in, or not done as strongly in Algebra 1 and done really well in geometry. And then because they've done so well in geometry, think, okay, I'm ready for honors Algebra 2. Really, we want you to look back at your Algebra 1 experience as a good guidepost for that as well. I'll let you look at, really the honors algebra is also going to emphasize being able to do work without a calculator, or the benefit of that. Not as many multiple choice format quizzes and tests. It's going to make students demonstrate their work and really show that they know the concepts much more in depth than a regular class. With pre-calculus, that is going to be usually the next step after Algebra 2 for students that are doing really well in math. We do want to emphasize this year, there's actually a change in pre-calculus curriculum. So there is regular pre-cal, but beginning next year, there is no more honors pre-calculus. Instead, the College Board has created AP pre-calculus. So for students considering pre-cal next year, it's either regular pre-cal or AP pre-cal. How would you know to take AP pre-cal? Well, that would be really students with an intention on continuing on to AP calculus after this class is over. For students who are taking math classes and notice that they are not progressing towards being college ready, so maybe, for example, they have really struggled on their PSAT math or their SAT or ACT math, and they are really wanting to make sure that they are ready for entry-level math at the college level, those students should consider taking college prep math. This would be helping students to prepare their algebra skills and getting them prepared to meet college readiness standards through things like the TSI. Of course, after that, our highest level math classes, we do offer calculus, AB and BC. So students would take AB before BC. There's also regular versus AP statistics that students can consider as well. And then finally, again, we have dual credit math. So I think one of the easiest things to look at, and again, this is also available on the course selection homepage. If I click on this link, it should take me to our course selection homepage, which you'll see here. And then what I want to emphasize as a really great tool when you're thinking about math classes is on the right-hand side, you're going to see a link that says, what math class do I choose? If you click on that, it should bring up the following flow chart, which is a really great way for you to see, almost like a choose your own adventure. If you take algebra, then you go to geometry. And then after geometry, it starts to break up what your options are for math for the 3rd and the 4th year. This can be a really nice way to look at things. Let's see, I'm going to have to bear with me for just a moment. I'm going to switch out of the screen. There is another nice tool that we also have available. Sorry. Sorry, I think I exhausted my my computer capabilities here. Bear with me for just a moment. On a similar page, there is a really nice tool available where it will actually, right below that, where it's a chart, and it allows a student to look at potentially what types of courses or what kinds of careers they are considering for after high school. When a student looks at this page, it will show you different career areas, and then it will emphasize, well, what could be a really reasonable or ideal fourth math choice for that. The reason I think that chart is very helpful is because when you look at it, it really helps to emphasize for students that AP Calculus might not be the most ideal choice for them after graduation. In fact, what I think one of the biggest points of that page is really emphasizing that AP Statistics or regular statistics class could really be a much more ideal choice for students as they prepare. So as an easy example, students that are considering something in education or in psychology or human services, quite honestly, may not benefit as much from a class like AP Calculus, whereas AP Statistics would be a much more fundamental math experience for them as they prepare for further coursework into their college years. Appreciate you being patient with me. I'm getting this presentation fired back up again so that we can continue. When this gets reset again, we are going to go to science. All right, so for science, there is really going to be a lot of choice. And you will see when your student looks at their course card, they're going to see a list that looks like this. How do you know where to start? Well, a couple of ways to think about it. First of all, is your student somebody that focuses on their GPA and their weight, and they really want to look for AP classes? You're going to see that there are very few honors courses on here. It's mostly regular and AP. The second way a student might think about these choices is, well, what are they considering thinking about learning about as they get to college? So there are some really straightforward and easy examples of that, where students that might be more interested in lab sciences or health sciences might be interested in taking AP level chemistry or biology, for example. What I really want to highlight on this page is that you will see some classes or some courses are actually multi-class chunks. So you'll see our first example is AP Chemistry down here at the bottom in gray. You're going to see 3 classes bracketed together where students would need the AP Chemistry experience is a year long, again, 36 weeks, August until May, where they take AP Chemistry, they take AP Chemistry Research and Design, and then AP Test Prep. All 3 of those must be taken together as a package deal. Similarly with AP Biology, there are multiple classes, and then there's also AP Physics C. For students that still may not be sure about what they want to do, well, another way to think about these science classes might be, well, what are you just generally interested in? So for example, if there's students that are interested in, CSI and learning about disease or illness, you might be interested in things like pathophysiology, forensic science at the Tech Center. We also have medical microbiology. Students that might be interested in things like animal science, or again, looking at physical therapy, might look at anatomy and physiology. We also, if students are really passionate about environmental issues or like being outside, they may enjoy things like aquatic science, AP environmental science. So you can think about these options in a variety of different ways. This is just emphasizing to be careful in looking at the course choices. So again, there are some that are really 36 weeks experiences, particularly with AP Chemistry, Biology, and AP Physics C. So to jump off from here, once you've gotten through those core courses, it's really time to jump off from there, and you should be halfway done with course selection. One thing I want to emphasize is what to think of from there. Well, if your student is taking world languages and really does well in those, if we say your student is taking French 1 and 2 and has done really well in that course, we would strongly encourage them to consider level 3 or 4 of a world language, particularly if they are interested in attending or applying to a selective college. You think about every student in the state of Texas graduating from high school should have 2 credits of the same world language, but not everyone's going to have a level 3 or a level 4. And students that are applying to competitive schools may see those as a separator in helping them to distinguish themselves from other applicants. Also, think about what else your student is already involved in. So if they are in band or orchestra or theater or academic decathlon or athletics or ROTC, all of those programs are 2 additional periods. So if your student is in choir, choir is a full year, 2 periods. That's going to take 2 more periods out of your remaining 4. So we encourage you to think about that. If they're interested in going to a tech center class, that again is going to be another 2-credit chunk. So if you think about what they already do or what they're already involved in, you can see that a lot of the course choices are going to get satisfied and eaten up pretty quickly. If you are thinking about the remaining course choices, that's where the electives come into play. And we really want to make sure students consider the following, and we're going to give you some examples. Remember, Hebron is an accelerated block and it moves quickly, and it's also academically competitive. So when we think about honors and AP and dual credit classes, we want to make sure students are not biting off more than they can chew. We will see, particularly as students move from 9th grade to 10th grade, the level of difficulty in these classes, it becomes greater, and students that may not have developed their study skills or their work ethic because they've been able to get through middle school and 9th grade pretty easily, start running into some academic roadblocks in 10th grade and in particularly in the 11th grade if they are not willing to address those academic skills. So I would consider that when thinking about how many courses. Also, a student's schedule being balanced is not something that is guaranteed, and we're going to show you some examples of how that sometimes is just not possible. So for example, if we look at this, if a student is taking a tech center class, remember a tech center class is going to be 2 periods, and it's going to be either first and second combined or third and fourth combined. In this example, a student has taken a tech center class that got scheduled in the spring semester during 3rd and 4th period. And also, because they are in band in this example, you're going to notice that their fall semester by default has had to be very heavy with AP classes and honors classes. And yes, that's also during marching season. So that's going to be something that students may need to consider when they think about the combination of courses and when things are available. Again, in this example, not all tech center classes are offered every semester. So if a class is only offered during the spring, we're going to put a priority on trying to get them into that tech center class that they requested. In this example, again, if electives are only offered in certain spots, so for example, this student requested as elective choices interior design and psychology and sociology, but they also have a humanities class which goes all year. Choir also goes all year. So that's already taken up 2 periods of their schedule, and then these elective classes may have only been offered in the fall. So that's going to mean that the spring is going to be pretty intense for them. There's nothing much that we can do in these examples, so students need to be prepared. When students are taking many year-long classes, they may find that there's just only one way for their schedule to fit together. So in this example, a student has AP chemistry, a humanities course, and then they're also a part of athletics. So that means that in this example, they might have 2 AP classes in a honors class in one semester and 2 AP classes in another. So that's just how this schedule would have to be put together. Our final example is this one with a senior student who really in the spring of their junior year was really motivated to really put their best foot forward and finish high school strong. They're trying to get their GPA and rank up for their college applications. So they've requested AP Economics and Government, AP Biology, AP Calculus AB and BC, and then and you can see that this schedule is pretty hefty all the way through. We would really want our seniors to consider, while we want them to have good stamina throughout the year, is the student going to start setting in and around January going, I'm not really feeling this AP Calculus class anymore, we would want them to make sure to consider what they want that senior year to look like, because students are going to be asked to stick with their classes and their choices that they make. Again, tech center classes are great opportunities. Students can really not get the experience that they're looking for, and the experiences they get at the tech center are just so much different and so much more in-depth than what they get at the main campus. So we strongly encourage your student to take a risk and try some of those if they are interested. The biggest thing we want to emphasize with students in the tech center classes is that they should make those their part of their primary course requests. If a student makes a tech center class one of their alternate choices or backup choices, it's unlikely that they're going to get that into their main requests. For juniors, there are a couple of unique course options. One is what's called the PSAT class. This is a class just for juniors, and it's in the first 9 weeks of the fall semester. These are students that are invited to participate in this class based upon their 10th grade PSAT score. Students have already been invited and contacted about this class if they qualified. There is summer participation required, so students need to think carefully about if they can and want to follow with all the obligations of this course. For any junior and senior, there is also an SAT, ACT preparation class. It's going to be offered typically during the second 9 weeks, and it helps students to prepare for their first or maybe their final SAT or ACT trials. But students who do these classes should have taken completed Algebra 2 or be in that class at the same time, because it's going to draw off of those skills as a part of the math instruction. All right. Students, again, students are going to pick their course requests next week in Skyward. They're going to have between Tuesday and Friday of next week to make those choices. We want them to put in a full request of requests, and then also up to 8 backup choices or alternate courses in their Skyward account. They are going to have an opportunity to talk with their counselor individually. We're going to be meeting with students practically every day during second period and advisory, and we meet with every student. We call them down. For students that are at the tech centers in the morning, we also will meet with them, but at a different time during the day. But we will meet with them by before spring break, and that will give us a chance to make changes. We may also notice that students have missed a graduation requirement, or maybe they failed a portion of a course, and we'll help to make sure that they make that time up. This is also a great chance for your student to ask questions individually with their counselor. So with their course choices, while students have a lot of opportunity to change their course requests, particularly in the spring and in course verification, once we get to summer break, those course choices are going to be set. And when we get into next school year, students that are particularly in honors and AP level courses are going to be required to stay in classes for at least the first 3 weeks. The only way they could get out at a 3-week mark is with conferencing with teachers, making sure they're attending to tutorials and demonstrating that they have an academic need to get out of the class. Otherwise, they would get out. They would follow a similar procedure at the 9-week mark, but they're going to be asked to give those classes a chance and a full effort if they've requested it. Part of the reason for that is not because we are stubborn necessarily in wanting to make students stick through things, but oftentimes, and I think you can understand this as parents, sometimes students don't really know what they're capable of unless they are made to give it a full and fair shot. And there's nothing better than students who are initially maybe concerned about their ability in a class, but when they stick through it and really grow with their teacher, they find that they can do something that they never thought that they could, and they come out of it as a better student and even a better prepared and more confident student. So that's why we do that. The other part is that our staffing is so maximized here at Hebron High School that we plan our schedule based off of what students request. And so when students then show up in fall trying to change their request, we don't have the staffing to accommodate that. So that's also why we are very restrictive on students changing courses once the spring semester ends. To summarize, okay, we have all students going to be entering classes by the end of next week, the end of the school day, Friday of next week. If you have specific questions, please be patient with us. Your student will have an opportunity to meet individually. So we want to make sure that you give us a chance to go through this process with them. I cannot emphasize how much that course selection website is valuable to look around. This presentation, for example, will be taped and posted there. All of these resources are there. If you want to look at the course selection menus, then those are available right now for you to review on that course selection page as well. We share a lot of things through our social media account through Twitter. If you don't follow us there, it's at Hawks Counselor. And that brings us to the end. I am going to ask my moderators if there are specific questions or topics that need to be revisited, or moderators, if you are also seeing questions in the chat, you are welcome to also unmute yourself and answer things as well. If you feel like you've gotten everything you need from the presentation and you have no questions, then you are free to also sign off, and hope you have a great evening and a great rest of your week. All right, moderators, what do we have left to answer?
I think we've got most everything covered, Justin.
Okay, any themes or things that need to be touched upon again?
Probably, I think most of the questions that I've seen are PSAT regarding.
Okay. Yes, so just to clear, again, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're going to have a very similar WebEx presentation, really diving deeper into honors, AP, and dual credit course offerings, and career and technology education course offerings as well. So if you want to learn more, all sessions are recorded and are posted on our course selection website. We're also going to most likely send links out as well. The dual credit classes that are offered at Hebron are offered at Hebron, but their Collin professors come to our campus and teach the classes here. The PSAT invitations, I believe, were sent through email, and also I think students were also delivered a paper copy as well. Mrs. Kate Mayo, one of our English teachers, would be a primary point of contact if you have questions about that. They base those invitations off of what's called the selection index score, which is like the total score that your student would have earned on the PSAT that they took in October of this school year. It's just for 10th graders, current 10th graders.
There were a couple of questions about summer participation for that PSAT. I know that sometimes it's been online and sometimes it's been in person. Have you heard from Ms. Mayo on what this summer is going to be?
I don't know. I do know that there is a Canvas component that students have been asked to link up with already. So students that were invited, they've been asked to link up in a Canvas course. That would be a great question for her directly. She can give you a good answer for that. Let's see. Does my junior need to take another science credit if they've already done biology, chemistry, and physics? So, Ms. Query, yes. So all students need to have 4 credits total of science. I'm gonna. Ms. Lovett is welcome, as a former science teacher, is welcome to jump in. My general 4-year high school college prep science curriculum, I would say, would include biology, chemistry, and physics, and then a 4th science after that, of whatever might be up their
Interest.
their interests or what their career aspirations are. I think covering those 3 main domains is a good start. But when you talk about why they would take a class all years of high school, depending on the selection rigor of the colleges they're applying to, they may find taking science every year of high school as an attractive quality. Ms. Lovett, do you want to clarify or enhance anything with that?
Well, I would just say that 4 science credits are needed. Specifically, biology and chemistry and physics are a great base for any student, but you will need to have your junior student take a science their senior year, because that's what's needed in order for them to graduate. Now, some kids we know love science and they want to take more than 4, and that's perfectly fine too. But not everybody needs to take physics, and they can take biology is required, and then the state says that they have to have either chemistry and or physics. So it's great that your student has biology, chemistry, and physics, but physics is not required for everyone. But they have to have 4 credits.
Yeah. My email ID is fieldsjr, so FIELDSJR @LISD.net. That's a great question. JC asked, can they take AP Pre-Cal if you've already taken Honors Pre-Cal and AP Calculus? If you've already taken AP Calculus, you would not be able to take AP Pre-Cal. However, and one of my teammates can correct me, my assumption would be, and these are all new questions, if you have taken Honors Pre-Cal, they would be able to take AP Pre-Cal. Is that correct,
That's
Counseling
correct.
team?
If they've had
Yes.
honors pre-cal, they can take AP pre-cal.
Okay, excellent. Yes, Ms. Kundra, that email is correct. Oh, okay, senior off. Thank you. So senior off, we did not, yeah, senior off is something that is available obviously to seniors. Students can have one off period per semester. So for example, and off periods would either be first or fourth period. So a student could have senior off first period all year. Again, senior off is not worth credit. So a student would need to be ideally, they would have to be on track to graduate. They would want to have all of their STAR scores, STAR tests passed. They can also have senior off fourth period all year as well, and that decision may be made based upon whatever your students' interests or responsibilities are. So, if your student is not a morning person, which a lot of teenagers aren't, maybe they want to take senior off and sleep in. If your student has a job and wants to get out of school earlier to be able to go work, if your student has family responsibilities where they need to pick up siblings from school or take care of an older adult at home, maybe that plays into it. Students can also switch. So for example, they might have first period off in the fall and they might have fourth period off in the spring. And sometimes our athletes make adjustments like that based upon their schedule. Students who have senior off are expected to leave campus, so they should have transportation or a way to arrive late at school or a way to leave early. Students should not be on campus wandering the hall or anything like that during off period. Good question. So Ms. Kaiser, about dual credit registration. So if your student is interested in dual credit for next year, the first step that they're going to do is request those dual credit classes next week in Skyward. All those course codes are listed on the course selection cards. After spring break, Hebron High School will begin it's a much more detailed process, and it will begin with a dual credit information session. So when your student requests courses in Skyward, there's also going to be a link to what's called a dual credit interest form, and they would complete. It's just putting information about themselves in, and it helps us to target who's interested in dual credit for next year. We will then walk them through pretty much during late March and the month of April how to apply to Collin, how to make sure that they are academically qualified for dual credit, and then ultimately they will need to register and pay. We'll go over this process much more in depth tomorrow during the advanced academic. Health is not required, so Texas does not require that as an elective for graduation. That was for Mrs. Feather. All right, again, if you've gotten all your questions answered, then you can certainly sign off. The pre-cal, so for the question about why honors pre-cal is not offered next year, we find that with some of these courses that are, if we have a regular pre-cal, honors pre-cal, AP pre-cal, it starts to segment the course into too small of a categories. Really, students who are taking honors pre-cal, those students should be being prepared for AP Calculus the same way that AP Pre-Cal is as well. So it's shifting to make sure that either students are just taking the regular Pre-Cal class or AP Pre-Cal. It's a change that the College Board has made, and then also LISD has fallen in line with that as well. Students, JC, students can request first or fourth period for senior off. They cannot request both. You can only have one period off per grading period or per semester. But a student can, and these are very specific course requests. So let's say, for example, that your student was a football player and they're a senior football player. They can very specifically in their course request first period fall senior off because they have football during fourth period. And then when football is over, for seniors and they're no longer a part of that beginning in the spring semester, your student could also request spring 4th period senior off, and it can be very detailed in their requests. But students who want a senior off class should request that just like they request any other class in their requests. You can just have senior off for one semester. It does not have to be all year. So the question about, so students have been provided with some information about their course choices, not to the depth that you have gotten this evening. Students are welcome to watch this presentation. Students were encouraged beginning a couple of weeks ago to begin consulting with their teachers about their course options. But this will be shared and available on our course selection page. Students were directed to use the course selection information page to find resources, and they could also use this as well. We can answer a few more questions that you've got, but again, if you are all set, you are welcome to log off. Thank you very much. And thanks to my team for being so on top of answering these questions. For those that still have questions, if you think of them after tonight, again, we're having an advanced academic and CTE presentation tomorrow at 12 p.m. On Friday at 12 p.m., there is another WebEx presentation purely for question and answer. So if you think of something between now and Friday at noon, you can log in, type your questions in the chat, and we will have a team of counselors here for to answer those questions. And when you feel like you've gotten your everything done, then you can log off. But that will be another chance to ask questions too. There is no, Syed, that's a good question. We are not, students have really, there's no priority in entering classes first into Skyward. It's a window where we are catching all of the requests at once. Once all student requests are entered, our school and our district analyzes those requests to determine where what we need to offer to help students continue on towards graduation, but also to serve the most amount of students with the elective requests. So submitting your requests on Tuesday versus Thursday of next week does not improve priority or anything like that. Some of the classes we do provide priority to if we have too many students that request a class. So a good example of that is Art 1 is a class that we have way more requests for than we can possibly satisfy every year. So we do emphasize a priority to senior students that still need to have a fine art requirement for graduation. They would get first priority, and then typically we would look at juniors that also have to that still do not have an art requirement that made a request, and then we work down to sophomores after that. Good question about AP. So AP European History, the teacher that had previously taught that retired. And so we would like to hopefully offer that. That's why it's on the course card. It is a selection that students can make. We would look at our staffing. First of all, how many students request a class? We would look at our staffing to see if we could accommodate that and make a decision there. Computer science, that's a great question as well. We are wanting to make sure that we have staff that are credentialed to be able to teach that. Our hope is to be able to teach that next year. It is on the course card for students to request, but that's also a decision. If we end up not making that, we would adjust student requests and provide updates as well so that people were knowing about that. Same thing about AP Physics C. Again, all of our course offerings are driven by student request. So as an example, sometimes those AP European History or AP Physics C classes sometimes might just get like 6 or 7 students that request it. We're not going to be able to offer a class that has so few requests because of our responsibility to use our resources with staffing. So AP Physics C is on the course card for students to request, and then once we get all of the requests in, we will analyze to see if we can offer that. It is necessary to take Computer Science 1 before you can take AP Computer Science. So students would take 1 first and then AP, and when they take it that way, that actually could count for 2 credits of the same world language. That satisfies that requirement. Right. We appreciate the questions. We don't have an AP Computer Science Principles class. So if you would look at there is a course card. So when you're thinking about course options for your student, there's 3 menus to look at. The first would be the grade level course card for your student that would cover the core courses. Then there is a Hebron High School elective course card, which you could see everything from business courses to orchestra to athletics are all on there. And then the third would be the Tech Center course card as well, which you can look at. And you can see what courses are offered there. All right, we are going to log off. Thank you everybody for participating tonight. And again, we can see you tomorrow at the Advanced Academic CTE presentation, tomorrow afternoon, I'm sorry, or Friday afternoon at the Q&A. Have a good evening. Thank you.